YouTube Ozico in the Godows is back, regrading the entire first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. We gave grades out right when the draft ended. We're going to take a look at those original grades. I'm going to give them new grades for the picks, and then we're also going to give the rookies performance grades based on year one. Something very important on the main grade, I'm grading the pick, not the player. So something to remember here. This is a video we do every single year, so really excited about this. Offseason content starting to roll out. And then the playoff content right around the corner here. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the playoffs. So join us, like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter, and check out our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop, code GOAT, both those sites. The giveaway for the GLD Shop is kind of coming to an end sometime soon, before the Super Bowl. So links pinned in the comments. Check it out. Excited about this video. First overall pick was Bryce Young. The Panthers selected him number one, obviously. And on draft night, I graded them a B+ for the pick. Why? Well, why not an A was, if a lot of you know, I was a big CJ Stroud guy, not only in my top quarterback in the draft, but my number one overall player in the draft. So if they took Stroud, I would have given them an A on draft day or right after draft day. I gave him a B+ though, because I thought they still took a good player. I'm not going to punish a team because they took my QB2 over my QB1, unless I think there was a massive, massive difference. So I gave him a B+ still. I thought Bryce Young would be good. I thought he was solid. He still can be. Based on this year, and again, the performance grade is grading the player on year one, which isn't 100% everything. The main grade and the draft day grade are grading the pick. So right when the draft ends, I grade the pick, not the player, because we haven't seen the player play yet in the NFL. So a lot of factors into that. But performance grade a D. And a lot of people will say, and they are accurate, that he had the worst supporting cast in football. And you look at the coaching situation, the offensive line, the weapons, whatever. And I agree with that. And that didn't help him, and he could play better with the better supporting cast, I suppose. And I agree with that too. It doesn't change how he played though. It doesn't. You don't go, well, he played bad, but he had that situation, so that means he played better. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't make any sense. So he still played bad. I give him a D, and it's being the first pick, thinking he would be really solid even right away. So being underwhelming, I think, plays a part as well. So I gave it a D on the performance grade. But so I'm going to grade, if I had to regrade that B+ pick, I'm going to bump it down to a C-. A lot of factors here. Well, I thought they chose the wrong quarterback as it was, but it's even more evident of that now. That's a big thing. Like, it's even more evident of that. What CJ Stroud has done, maybe a generational prospect, a historic rookie season. It's pretty, like, I would be shocked if somehow Bryce Young looked better, ended up better than CJ Stroud. So it's very, very clear that they chose the wrong quarterback. So that really bumps it down. But am I going to bump it all the way down to like in the range of how he played this year? No, because I think he'll be better. I still think he has a lot of upside. I still expect him to be a good quarterback. If he stays healthy and if they get better talent around him, which I expect him to do. Maybe it's not right away. So I do think he'll be better. I do think he'll play better. And I'm not really doubting his future. I kind of got on him a little bit this year, but that's based on how he played. Like, he was underwhelming, disappointed, made some mistakes. Offense line wasn't great, but a lot of it was him holding the ball, stepping into pressure, interesting scrambling tactics, which I was surprised about. Was off target a little more than expected. Some things didn't help, obviously, but I'm going to go C-. He still has a future, but they missed on CJ Stroud. And you have to, because I'm grading the pick. I'm all about value. You traded a bit to go up here. You traded DJ Moore. So that, I think most people will probably give him worse than a C- for grading the pick here. So, but I still think he has the upside. So we're going to keep it in that range. Talked about CJ Stroud. This is a very obvious one. On draft day, I graded them an A+ because CJ Stroud was my number one quarterback, but he was my number one player as well. So pretty much whoever got him after one was going to get an A+ for me. It's just kind of how it was. So the Texans got an A+. I'm going to keep it at an A+, obviously. I was probably higher on CJ Stroud than anyone, and he was better than I expected. So A+ in performance grade, A+. He did miss 2 games, but he had an historic rookie season, obviously. So I think this is pretty obvious. A+ is across the board here. I'm very happy that my evaluation went right with CJ Stroud, obviously. The third pick, Will Anderson, I gave it an A on draft day. We're going to stick with that, too. This is my top defensive player in the draft. They got him at 3. They had to trade up, but getting that big-time pass rusher of the future, who has a bright future still, but for DeMeco Ryans was pretty big. Performance grade, A minus A. I'm kind of in that range. He got a lot of pressure. I thought maybe, getting after, I thought he would get after quarterback, the sack totals, I guess, which isn't everything. I thought that'd be a little bit higher, but I think he's kind of on the brink of getting, what I mean, like next year he can go crazy and get like double those sack numbers. So a lot of future here, a big future here for Will Anderson Jr. Really good fit. It's proven to be a big factor. Texans are a good football team for multiple reasons, but I think Will Anderson's part of that. So I'm going to stick with the grade for Will Anderson on that one. Fourth pick. This is a tough one to regrade. I did not give it a performance grade, but we'll talk about what I saw from Anthony Richardson. I actually saw what I expected, like a guy that's pretty raw, but that has a ways to go as a passer. He's a better runner than thrower, but you see the flashes in the pass game. Even some plays that didn't count or weren't caught, like I saw some really good flashes. That's kind of where we expected that to be, like in terms of talent. Like we expected that, like the flashy moments. He's a better runner as a passer. He's inconsistent as a passer. He's a little wild. He's got to work on some things. He's got a lot of upside, but he has to work on it. He has to fix it. So B plus is what I gave them, and that was actually higher than I thought, because I wasn't crazy about Richardson. I do love his upside. So the B plus is actually higher than I thought I was going to grade whoever took him, but I did like the fit with Steichen. So I kind of talked myself into on draft day giving it a B plus, or right after draft day a B plus. And I don't want to give the performance grade. It's kind of right where it was at, but he barely played. Even the games he played in, there was some of those games where he got taken out of it because of injury, obviously. So I gave it a C plus, and this is tricky because I can't give it a B plus again, because in terms of the talent, like what we saw, like in this very, very small sample size, he was right around, like pretty much exactly what we thought. In terms of fit, in terms of it, the flat, everything. I already explained it. But then you factor in that he got injured multiple times, and it's going to affect his running ability down the stretch because he cannot take that many hits anymore, and that is a big part of his game. Plus, you got to factor in that he needs reps more than anybody in the NFL. He needs reps more than any other quarterback because for him to reach that upside. So he kind of stunted that growth, if you will, like right off the bat. So there's no way I could possibly give it a B plus because things aren't the same. And then you got to factor in the Colts kind of, do we have to bring back Minshew? We want Richardson to be the starter. It's a good thing they don't have like to use a top pick on a quarterback because they don't have a top pick. They played pretty well this year, but it's a little scary of a situation. So you can't argue that one. Like I cannot keep it the same as a B plus. You just cannot, because there's some things that weren't there before, like the injury, multiple injuries. You can't take that many hits. Again, he needed reps. This is the guy that needed reps, and he got that taken away from him. So, and the Colts situation with the quarterback now. So, I did bring that down. I do love the fit in the Steichen offense. Like, he's got to be the guy as long as he stays healthy, and I think he's got a bright future as long as he gets those reps. So, I'm going to give it a C plus. Again, very tricky one to regrade, but it's not tricky to know that you just can't give it. You can't get whatever you had it. If you had it at no matter what you had it, pretty much you're gonna have to bump it down because of what happened. And it sucks. People get injured, but it's tough when it comes to him because his play style, like he can't keep doing that. He can't, and that really you're kind of taking talent away from him then. So the more I'm talking about, it's like it's interesting future here with this one. So gave it a C plus. With the fifth pick, Devin Witherspoon, I gave it a B. I was a major Christian Gonzalez guy and still am. Christian Gonzalez looked fantastic when in his short time playing, and I have no doubts about him. But I still liked Witherspoon, so I gave it a B. The performance grade, I'm going to give it an A. Probably it could be close to an A plus, but he's missed some games, and that does bring up a future question because Witherspoon's play style, his play style at Illinois he's kind of smaller too. He's not like the biggest dude, and his play style is like, okay, will this guy get beat up in the NFL? So him missing some games, nothing major, but some games kind of goes with those negatives, like the cons on his draft evaluation a little bit. So it makes you wonder, maybe that's the only downside here. But he was fantastic for the Seahawks. I'm definitely going to give this one an A. I think another factor here is it didn't really feel like they needed a corner that badly, but it turns out that they did. Like, that was actually, like, they needed Witherspoon pretty bad. I like his play style. I like the fact that he can play inside and outside, or I should say outside and inside as well. Just love his play style. It translates. Like, he's knocking people around at college, but sometimes those guys can't knock the big boys around the NFL. Like, he can do it. He can do it. Just how's the durability with that play style? Where will it be in the long run? So I guess that's the only negative here, but it seems like a really good pick for the Seattle Seahawks. The 6th pick, Paris Johnson Jr., I'm going to give him a C on the year. It was a little inconsistent. There was portions where it's like, all right, yeah, can I discuss this guy going into my top 10 of my rookies when I do my rookie rankings? And then there's parts where it's like, definitely not. He did give up a bit of sacks, more sacks than any of the other first-round rookies of the offensive linemen. But, yeah, I mean, he did move over to right tackle. Yeah, he had some moments. So performance grade, I'm going to give it a C. On draft day, I gave it a B+. It was a tough one to grade, too, because they kind of took themselves out of taking a top-tier talent because they insisted on getting an offensive lineman. I didn't love that, but I did love gathering the picks because it was a rebuild team, and they gathered so many picks for the future as well. I'm going to give it a B-. I mean, this is an offensive lineman for the future, like having the tackle group set for your future and not have to worry about it is pretty good. And I do think he'll be good. I think he struggled here and there this year. Wasn't a major struggle, but I think he's going to be a solid offensive tackle. I really do. So I bump it down a little bit. You do want, like, they missed out on taking some top tier talent. You could argue, could they have stayed put, but they did get a lot of value in return. So I'm going to give it a B- here on the Cardinals pick at 6 of Paris Johnson Jr. Pick 7, Tyree Wilson. Yeah, so this was an interesting one. I gave it a B at the time, and he was a tough one to grade at the time because I like Tyree Wilson. I was actually probably lower on him in terms of my board and the pass rusher rankings than most people out there. So I feel pretty decent about my evaluation. I feel really good about my evaluation. I thought he'd be a lot better than this, though. But why I feel good about my evaluation is because I was preaching he doesn't have the get off to play full-time off the edge. And that ended up being the case. All of a sudden he started playing, and everyone's like, oh, the get off's not there. If you watch the tape, you saw it. So I feel like I was right about that. But what I liked about Tyree Wilson was he was a versatile monster. Like, when you put him inside, he was a problem. And some guys you put inside in college and they won't be able to do it in the NFL. But him having the length, the power, and the speed, I think he could make it work, being a versatile piece, not just playing outside. And they didn't really use him like that. I mean, maybe moved around a little bit, but yeah, that's the problem. Like, you had to use him in a specific way for him to work out, and he has not worked out yet. I give a D- in the performance grade. He's been a little bit better in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. He was non-existent in the first half of the year when he was actually playing more. And then he was playing very, very little. Then he started playing a little bit more again, but now recently it's dropping down again because Malcolm Kuntz is playing well. So Tyree Wilson's getting outplayed by Malcolm Kuntz. I think they're two totally different players, though, and we're not going to factor in Max Crosby because that's Max Crosby on the other. That's his spot, So, but Wilson, should be a better player than Kuntz, but he's a totally different type of player. I think they need to use him more properly and realize that what type of player he is, because he's not this get-off, explosive, speedy monster on the outside. That's not what he is. He is a monster, but in a different way. So a lot of it is, like I said before the draft, is how you use him. So disappointing this year. I still think he has a future, but at this point, not using him right, he's getting outplayed by other guys that you thought, you took him because he should be way better than those guys. And they could have taken other players here that helped them even more. So I got to give it a pretty bad grade. So we're going to go D+, but all it takes is to use him as that versatile piece that he is, and he could look like a mismatch nightmare, like a matchup problem. So I'm excited about his future still, even though I had to bump this down to a pretty bad grade. Bijan Robinson, the Falcons took him 8th overall. I gave it a B+. I wasn't thrilled about taking a running back at 8 because the running back, he is different, but a running back that you could take in the 4th round or so could be, similar production, I suppose. And that's kind of been proven. So I couldn't really give it an A, even though I did think he was different and I did like the fit. Performance grade, I'm going to give it a B. Like, he has production. Like, the production's there. I do think he was underwhelming, though. I expected a lot more, and then the fact that he's not always on the field, or even not just that. Sometimes he's barely on the field. And, yeah, you blame Arthur Smith for that, but there also is a reason that Bijan, they took him 8. They put a lot of value in him, and if he's not getting on the field as much as you think, maybe it's more so a Bijan problem. Not that I think there's a big problem, but a Bijan issue more than an Arthur Smith issue. I guess debatable. But they're using Algier. They're using Patterson. Bijan had some fumbles come up. He had some off games, I thought, as well. But he was still explosive, talented, even in the passing game. So I give it a B on the performance grade. Him being a little underwhelming played a part. I'm going to give it a B-. Like, you could have went with more of a premium position here, but you did get a good football player. He's going to be way better in the future than he was this year, so I'm still very confident about that. So a B- for the Falcons. Jalen Carter, we gave an A+ on draft day because it was a steal. Like, this is a top-tier elite talent. Second best defensive player in the draft, in my opinion, and you got him down at 9. Surprisingly, I know he had some off-the-field issues, but I was still surprised some teams were passing on him. So we gave an A+. I'm going to stick with that. Performance grade, I give it an A. It probably started off the year as an A+. Recent games, they've been playing him a little bit less. I don't love that. He makes like one explosive play a game, and that's good. It helps them. But I actually thought he was better and more effective earlier in the year. Again, he's not playing a whole lot, like from a guy of his caliber, so I give it an A, not an A+ performance grade. But I'm gonna stick with the A+. I mean, this is a super talented, freaky dude. We've seen it. It was a steal in terms of value pick. Sometimes the Eagles got so much depth and so many good players in the defensive line that sometimes they don't play a lot right away. Like Jordan Davis didn't play a ton last year, so there's no doubt in my mind, as long as he's stays out of trouble off the field, he's going to be a fantastic football player, a potential elite football player. So there's really no reason to change this A+. We do have to factor in the future a little bit with this, because it's not all about 1 year. Bears take Darnell Wright. They get ripped a little bit for passing on Jalen Carter. I mean, the defense is playing well. They needed to get that offensive line together. I was a big Darnell Wright fan. He was actually my number 1 tackle in the draft, and I feel pretty good about that, because I actually said after the Bears took him, I'm like, he's my number 1 guy in the draft, but don't panic if he struggles a little bit right away, because it's a totally different blocking scheme than what the Tennessee Volunteers did, than what they're trying to do in Chicago, and that was a fact. So don't be like, that was kind of my take. Like, he's gonna be good. Don't get in panic mode if he struggles right away. But he played great. Like, he played better than expected. Maybe great's a little strong. He gave up some sacks. Here and there. I mean, the speed rushers sometimes would give him some issues, but overall, for a rookie, that Tennessee scheme, and actually they did put together, some blocking, some plays that feature blocking schemes that kind of fit Justin Fields type runs, which I think Wright was familiar with at Tennessee, so that helped as well. But given that I thought it was a pretty big transition, it was kind of supposed to be that for any Tennessee player because it was such a unique system over there. I thought he played very well. So performance grade, I'm going to give him a B+. Did give up some sacks. B+. I like the way he played. Nasty run blocker, too. I almost gave an A- because how good of a run blocker he is. But pass protection, you could get a little bit better. I'm not worried about it. B+. I'm going to just stick with it. A- was my original grade. I'm going to stick with that. He has a lot of upside. I like that they have their tackles set. If they're about to take a quarterback first overall, or if they're going to, if they're going just, I like that they have the tackle set for that. I like when teams, it's hard to do it. I like when teams make that work. Like if they get the offensive line down and then get the rest of the team like going, and it's all coming together for Chicago. It's just the big questions at quarterback, a couple other pieces. But I'm going to stick with that. I think it was I think I had a pretty good evaluation on Darnell Wright here. So, A- for the Chicago Bears on that one. The Titans taking Peter Skoronski 11th overall. I originally gave him an A. I'm gonna bump it down a little bit. I'm gonna give it a B+. Performance grade, I'm gonna give a C+. Actually, it's a little tricky because the first half of the year he missed a little bit of time, but when he played in the first half of the year, it was expected. I thought he was pretty damn good. He's like solid guard. We didn't know, is he gonna be a tackle? He was gonna be a guard. I was pretty confident he was gonna be a guard. That's what he is. That's what he was. He was playing very well. I actually thought he played much worse in the second half of the year. He was giving up good pressure. I thought the physical guys were a little too much for him at that position. But, so I did not think I thought it was a clear difference of what I saw on the field the first half of the year and the second half of the year. He had big time problems with the Texans specifically. And it's like, and you start to wonder when I'm watching it, I'm like, could this guy play guard? Like, are these guys too strong for him? Are they too physical? Are they going to have to move him back to tackle? And the Titans had a tackle problem, and they did not move him to tackle. So it looks like they're sticking it with him at guard. The positive here is, and maybe why I didn't drop the grade completely, is he's been playing tackle. He's been playing tackle, and now he's a guard. So it's new to him. He can add some strength. He can learn the position more. So it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense that he would struggle a little bit right away. So that factored in not dropping the grade completely. I did see some good from him this year. Also, the Titans' offensive line is the worst in football. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And they need almost every position but this one. So it's a good thing they got something down. Like, they don't have to worry about Skoronski at guard, or if they want to move him to tackle, I would not be against that because he was better at tackle. But time to grow as a guard still. So I'm going to give it a B+. I still think it's going to be really good. A lot of upside. They don't have to worry about that specific position. They can focus on the other positions in the offense line. Give it a B+. I like the way he played in the beginning of the year, or when he started playing in the beginning of the year. Not the games that he missed, obviously, compared to the second half of the year. So, and the Titans in general went down the second half of the year. To the 12th pick, the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs, which is a bit of a surprise on draft day. They took Gibbs here. Maybe it was a little early. Some people even know everyone thought Gibbs was good. I've always been a big Gibbs guy, even when he was at Georgia Tech. So I loved Gibbs. It's just like, taking that non-premium position at that pick, even though I liked the guy, I gave it a B. It's like not the greatest value pick, because we always grade the pick. Not the greatest value pick, but I do like the guy. So we gave it a B. Performance grade, I'm going to give it an A+. I thought Gibbs played better than expected, even though I was a big Gibbs fan for a long time. But he played, having David Montgomery there, who he played better than expected too, and having that there, you think it would limit. Like, if you were to tell us, like, after the Lions took Gibbs, like, Montgomery's going to play great. Like, he's going to play great. You would think, well, Gibbs maybe didn't do a whole lot then. Maybe he caught the ball here and there sometimes, but he played great. Running the ball, catching the ball. We see the speed, the vision, the explosive ability, the home run ability, but more physical than he should be and then expected too. So big factor for the Lions. I think he's won them games too. So A+, give it an A. You still factor in. You took a running back at 12. Not like crazy wow A+ value, because that's what I do grade when we grade the picks. Like, it's all based off value. Like the wow picks get an A+. He had a wow rookie performance for sure. I give it an A. Definitely bump that up. I love that Gibbs is tearing it up. He looked great at Georgia Tech, Alabama. He looks great in the Lions. So end up being like people. I don't know if people ever thought like that, like terrible pick. I mean, the Campbell one we'll talk about, definitely different. I don't think anybody was like terrible pick. I think people were just surprised, like odd pick. Take a running back, they kind of question a little bit, but really good player. I don't think we doubted that, but he played better than I think what we all expected too. So looks like a weapon for the Lions, like a big time weapon for the Lions for a long time to come here. Van Ness was the 13th overall pick by the Packers. I gave the Packers a B- on draft day. Van Ness, I was probably lower on than anybody. I don't remember anybody, but I thought I felt safer with him early second, late first. I was fine with. A lot of people were in love with Van Ness, and he does have a lot of upside. So that's still there. The upside is still there. He's playing behind some studs, I suppose, right now. But yeah, my issues when I turn on the tape with Van Ness, first off, he didn't start. I know Iowa's weird like that, but if he was a great player, he would start. But when you watch the tape, he was one of those players I took it as the people that watch highlights probably loved him. And everybody that watched every snap maybe were like me and weren't like super. Some people there's a lot of people that watch every snap and did love him. Don't get me wrong, but maybe they see the upside, they see what he could be, but not really what he was right now. And I say all that because he was a flashy guy, like here and there. Like, he'd make some crazy play, or he would get some big time sack, and you see him with his motor and his strength, and it just looks freaky. Or on the inside, just bullying a guard. On a crucial third down play, just bullies a guard, just too fast and too high of a motor for a college football guard in the Big Ten. But yeah, it doesn't start, and not really a consistent impact. It's just kind of these flashy plays, and you show up a good time, so you do love that. But so my issue is that what he's going to be in the NFL? Like, just kind of a flashy guy here and there, can't really play every snap. You kind of got to rely on him to make that flashy play when he comes in. And the way he one on the inside. I didn't get the feeling he would be able to do that in the NFL. Like I would randomly put him inside, and he was just too much for college guards. But the NFL guards were a lot different, where like a guy like that's not going to have enough power to out physical an NFL guard. So I think a lot of people love what they saw from that, and I don't think it was going to be a factor for the NFL. So that was my thing. And in year one, we can't fully say because he was behind some good players, but what the cons were for him, what I just explained, like, was he just a flashy player? Is he a consistent every down player? Like, so far, it's true. So far, it's showing true. So that's not great for him. But as soon as Preston Smith is gone, which could be after this year, who's still playing pretty decent, by the way, maybe he gets more of a role. But Ignegbari is playing more than him as well. Like, he's getting very little snaps. So performance grade D, couldn't really stick on the field. I think earlier, first couple games, he would show a flash here and there. That's where he got his production, but it was pretty much dead after that. So it's the negatives for him are showing to be true, but I'm not saying they're true for sure, like long time, like for good, I should say. So I'm going to bump that. I thought it was too early. It looks even more evident that it was like too early, and that's the type of player he is. So I'm going to give a C-, but we're not going to completely put it down because he still was known as a freaky upside prospect, and he still could be that. It's only been 1 year, and he maybe will be a starter sometime soon because, again, Preston Smith's not going to be there forever. I would hope that Rashawn Gary's there for a long time. They did just extend him, and he's a great player. 14th pick, Broderick Jones. This was one of my favorite evaluations during the offseason because I watched a tape on him, and I'm like, anything people are saying about Broderick Jones, I feel like is not accurate. Like, he was a pure upside guy, a guy that was going to struggle right away because he had the least amount of tackle snaps out of all the tackles in the draft. But mainly what I think other people the point they were missing was the total scheme difference from what was the from Georgia to the NFL. And Georgia ran a lot of man, like gap blocking, and he wasn't good on those. Like, he was actually bad on those plays. Like, inexperience played a part, but putting his head down when trying to block guys, north and south, whiffing, just being like a power, like he's kind of built like a physical power blocker, but that wasn't it. When they ran their slip screens or got him outside, he looked like a star, like a future star. So he needed to go to a team with more of that. And the Steelers used to be like that, and they went away from it. They were kind of reverting back to that play style, like outside zone, those type of plays. So it was a pretty good fit, but again, a very raw prospect. Like, he actually had a bad tape for the most part, but it was in a different type of blocking scheme. But I was kind of expecting him to be kind of struggle at first, and he didn't even play at first. So that looked kind of bad. But it makes sense. It's okay because he's a young, raw prospect with not a lot of snaps under his belt. And then he comes in, and I thought he looked pretty damn good for being a very raw prospect that they didn't start right away. So original grade was a B. I wasn't in love with Broderick Jones, but I loved his upside, and I thought he could be a lot better in the right fit. So I did like the fit. I did like the upside. They did trade up for him, so that played a part. So I gave him a B. I felt good with the B, like solid pick. A lot of upside. Performance grade, again, he didn't start right away. When he played, was it great? No, I thought it was fairly solid. So I give it a B+. And I am actually going to give it an A- because I think he's on a better track than I thought. But he does have that upside that I saw. I think he's going to be a really good offensive tackle. So original grade was a B, performance grade was a B+. But then we're going to go with that main grade. We're actually going to put it an A-. We don't see that a lot, but I feel pretty good about that. So I do like that pick from the Steelers. I love Broderick Jones' upside there, just in the right scheme and with more reps, which he needed. Because remember, he had the least amount of snaps out of all the tackles in the draft. That was pretty crazy. And he could end up being the best tackle from this draft class. Will McDonald is a weird one to regrade. I gave it a B+. I was a fan of Will McDonald. He was very solid at Iowa State, very productive pretty much every year there. He was pretty versatile too. Like, he would stand up and play off the edge. You put his hand in the dirt over the tackle and inside the tackle. Iowa State rushed 3 a ton. So when you rush 3, it's, and you have a pure like edge rusher, like usually stand up, like speed rusher. Like that, like he doesn't really get to do his thing a whole lot. So I thought he played very well while being out of position, but when he was in position, he also played very well. So that told me like he could be better in the NFL when used right, and then with maybe time to fully like learn the position he should play. So I liked him. I like the fit in Salah's defense because he has a unique defense. It's like a Leo defense. So you have a normal traditional defensive end on one side, and then you kind of got this style on the other side, and that's what they got him for. So I did love the fit. So I gave it a B+. Performance grade, like he was a healthy scratch at times, or like barely playing at times. So not being able to get on the field plays a big part. But he's been playing a little bit more, and he's getting some limited snaps. When he's like in those limited snaps, I think he looks pretty decent. So I couldn't give this. I think some people would probably give the performance grade worse than a D, like a guy that's healthy, scratch. You're the 15th overall pick, but I think when he does play, he looks pretty solid. Hard to judge though. I'm gonna give it a C. You pretty much have to bump it down because again, he can't get on the field. He's a healthy scratch at times. You expected a lot more. I expected a lot more from him, but at the same time, remember Jermaine Johnson last year. Like, what would you have graded Jermaine Johnson based off the first year? Like, it was underwhelming, but then he's really good this year. So I'm still pretty confident with the upside, with his future, with him being a fit, with him being used more, next year, like right away. So I can't drop this grade completely. I think most people would. I think people are like, well, that guy didn't hear that guy's name at all this year. Well, we're gonna give that an F. I don't think we can I don't want to fully give these main grades. That's why the performance grade is separate, like off of 1 year, because it's not about 1 year with the rookies. So I think it's kind of part of the plan, if that makes sense, with the Jets. 16, Emmanuel Forbes. Draft day grade, I gave him a B. I did love Forbes' playmaking ability, his athleticism, but I was shocked that they took him over Christian Gonzalez. I thought it was a little early. I thought late first, early second. But I did like the potential fit. I thought he was solid. He's a guy that was growing on me right before the draft, so I gave it a B. Performance grade, I'm going to give it a D. He had flashes right away, but then he started to struggle. Then he got benched. Now his snaps are pretty limited. So I'm going to give it a D on the performance grade. And we're going to drop that grade. Going to give it a C-. They should have taken, I know Gonzalez got hurt, but they should have taken Gonzalez. I still think that. It looked like a little bit of a reach. It sucks he's not playing, but maybe some people would give this a worse grade. But they're about to switch their coaching staff completely, so they bring a new defensive staff in there who, he could scheme change, like coverage differences. He can completely fit it, and he could be a lot better. He still has a lot of upside. He still has time to add some size, some strength to him. That would be huge as well. Commanders front office is odd. Well, we'll see. Maybe if the staff played a massive, massive part, they're going to be gone now, so we'll see. But I've been predicting Commanders draft picks. I predicted Jamin Davis. I predicted Emmanuel Forbes on draft day that they would take those guys. They did. I did not predict Dotson, but it kind of falls around the same category of like a surprising pick. It feels like the Commanders, which I don't agree with. Sometimes it'll work, Jahan Dotson. Sometimes it won't. But I don't agree with that. They pretty much decide who they're taking before the draft. They don't care what happens during the draft. They're taking this guy no matter what happens, and they're going to make a surprising pick. It just seems to be what they do. So, and they're not afraid to reach a little bit. Dotson, they're like, we need that guy. But all of a sudden, remember those receivers dropped a little bit. Like, they're still on the board. We can trade back. So those receivers still got to go and get our guy. It's like, the logic behind that I don't love, because you're basically saying we're not going to take the best receiver. These guys, they're not supposed to be here. We're not going to take the best ones. And Dotson ended up being pretty good, but I don't love the strategy, the thinking there. It's definitely what they do. So we'll see if they do it again, if they have a different staff. I imagine the front office is still there, though. Regrading Forbes, C- still has a lot of upside there. Christian Gonzalez, draft day grade was an A+. I had an elite grade on Gonzalez. Fantastic corner, whether we're talking zone or man, press, off, length, athleticism, playmaking ability, lockdown ability, all of it. I love Christian Gonzalez. I loved his game. Going to the Patriots at 17, epic steal. It's an A+. Performance grade, A. I barely saw him play, but I saw enough. Like, he was as good, maybe better as what we thought. Fantastic for that defense. Athletic dude, lockdown Tyreek Hill. you see him his leaping ability on an interception. Like he was gonna win defense. I'm pretty confident he was gonna win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm pretty damn confident. I'm gonna keep that as an A+. It's still a steal. If there was this would be different. If there was like a legitimate injury concern out of college, like he was beat up here and there, so that's a concern, or he's super tiny, so like will he get hurt? Like if those things were present in the evaluation, this would not be an A+ anymore. Like it would be like, okay, this is a problem, but there's nothing that tells me the injury is going to be a long play. It could be once a guy gets hurt. Sometimes he's not the same, but there's nothing like evident that says like that was part of the evaluation or that's like a problem. So it's still an epic steal. He looks like a hell of a corner and it should be for a long time as long as he's healthy. So I got to keep that in an A+. Jack Campbell, I graded that an F, pretty harsh, but I think I was possibly honest. Well, I had a third-round grade on Jack Campbell. I was probably lower on him at an early third-round grade. I would have been fine with a late second. I watched his tape, and he looked lost a lot of times. He would take himself out of the play, like he would run into blockers and just take himself out of the play. Where he flashed, where like he's a big dude and pretty athletic, and he's kind of rangy sideline to sideline in the passing game. He can get his hands on the ball a little bit. That's where he was solid. But he took himself out of plays. He kind of just full speed ran in the blockers and just knocked the ball, ran past the ball sometimes. So to me, it's a nowhere near a first round pick. Like he has upside, a guy you want to work with, but like I don't know, like a linebacker we're talking about, like not a premium position. Like if I'm taking a linebacker in the first round, he's got to be like a superstar type player. So I did not like the pick. I thought they were like purposely, what they were doing was not taking a premium pick. They were like, we're starting to get our team together. It's pretty complete. We need a linebacker. We need to replace Derek Barnes because he's not the greatest player, the greatest linebacker in the world. So I think they forced a reach here. I guess that's according to my board. Usually me and Brad Holmes, they have like the same board. It's odd. So I think they kind of forced a reach on this one. So I gave them an F. And he's playing a little bit more now, but I see some of the same things with Campbell and even the positives. Like he'll deflect the pass. He's pretty active in the passing game, I suppose, but there's times where he's in. I feel like the defense is actually giving up more when he's in. I've kind of noticed that they reach on. If you take a linebacker and you reach on a linebacker, and your linebacker, I don't really care who your linebackers are. He better be starting, but your linebacker that he's supposed to replace Derek Barnes, he better be starting. He better be playing full time, and he's not. Derek Barnes, who people are complaining about his play, he is playing more snaps, and sometimes all three, Anzalone as well, are on the field. So I guess that helps to have another body. And I would imagine Campbell starts next year, and I'd imagine he's going to play better and he has upside. But there's still some of those issues. I think the defense is worse with him on the field. And it's a spot, again, taking a linebacker, non-premium position on a reach, like he better be more than that. Like he better be, and he's not. So I bumped it up just because at least he has reps out there, and he's probably going to be the starter next year, and he's somewhat active in the passing game, even though he does give up some in that too. But I just don't love that pick, and I think my evaluation was pretty accurate on that. So I do love the Lions' last several drafts. We've been on the same page. Me and Brad Holmes been on the same page with some of those picks, a lot of those picks, but this was one that was definitely interesting. 19th, Kalijah Kancey. Bucks taking with 19th overall pick, Kalijah Kancey. Originally gave him a B-. That was a little early because it's a little bit. I thought it was a good player, though, obviously, but just because is he a passing downs guy only, maybe a little undersized for the position, not as good at shedding blocks in the run game. So maybe I questioned it a little bit while at the same time them taking an explosive good player on, most important passing down. So I gave it a B-. Performance grade, I'm going to give him a B+. He's been a tackle for loss machine. He kind of is what he is, though. Like, is he a good run defender? Like, he could work on that. He gets in the backfield on passing plays. He's been solid, but his negatives was he's kind of an undersized interior defensive lineman, and he kind of started the year off a little banged up. So that kind of goes with the cons a little bit because he's an undersized interior defensive lineman. Is there going to be durability issues? Kind of a question. So we're going to keep it all around the side. I think he's playing a little bit better than I expected, though. So I'll give that pick a B. It was a little surprising at the time. But we'll give the Bucks a B on that pick. 20, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Quite the turnaround in the second half of the year for him because he wasn't getting on the field, but it wasn't the end of the world because the Seahawks run a lot of Just, having 2 wide receivers out there, and they have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They kind of added a little bit more and then added Jackson Smith-Njigba in there to play a bit more. And he's been looking good. He's been looking better and better every single week. So I'm going to give him a B+. I wish, to get an A or to get a really, really, really good grade, wish he was playing all year. But given the circumstances that he's behind 2 great receivers, and then he's been playing very well lately, very well, and he's like that guy of the future with DK in that group, that looks really good. I gave an A+ at the time because he was my number 1 receiver, and I thought getting him at 20 was pretty much a steal. I'll give it an A. I don't think it's clearly his number 1 receiver, and most people would say he probably isn't, but I still think he could be. I still think it's a really good pick. He's going to be good he already looks good for them. He's going to be great for them. So Seahawks with both their picks get an A with Witherspoon and Njigba here. So good job to Seattle. 21, Quentin Johnston. I gave him a C+. Yeah, another one of those guys that I was pretty damn low on. I watched the tape and I saw him. TCU would stick him on one side and he would run a go, or to kind of give him a screen pass or like a gadget play because he was pretty good after the catch. So him being kind of limited, kind of was an issue because some of those receivers that are like that in college can't really figure out in the NFL because being an NFL receiver is a lot more complex. You got to be able to do a lot of things on the fly. You got to be a little versatile as well. What type of receiver position you align at. So I didn't love that. Also didn't love that he's a big body guy, and he wasn't the greatest on contested catches. Well, sometimes he would come down with them and it would look really good, but he wouldn't high point them. I just worry he's not going to get away with this in the NFL. It was kind of my thought process, but I did view a guy that had a lot of upside, like a freaky dude with a lot of size for being that freaky, really good after the catch. So I'm not going to get a completely terrible grade on draft day because of that, but I thought they were better. I loved Jordan Addison for the Chargers. It was like one of my favorite fits of the draft. I was very, very confused that they did not take him. So I gave it a C+. Performance grade, got to give it a D-. Struggling to get on the field, and when he did, some crucial drops, kind of showing some issues that were issues for me out of TCU. Some people just thought he was a top receiver prospect in the draft, and he's this flashy dude, but there was more to it than that. I'm going to give it a D. I still think, playing with Justin Herbert and being kind of a raw prospect, like he has a lot of upside, but it's a little scary because a lot of those negatives are still there, and it's just sometimes these receivers lately they either have it or they don't. Can they figure it out? So it was a tough one, for the Chargers. I really wish they took Jordan Addison or maybe Zay Flowers, but at the time I really, really wanted them to take Jordan Addison. My team ended up with Jordan Addison, so I'm not going to complain too much. But 22, Zay Flowers, I gave it a B at the time. Thought it was a solid pick. I kind of wanted the Ravens to go, again, another team I wanted to take Jordan Addison, but if they weren't, it was a guy that was kind of mixed on. I knew he was very, very talented, and it definitely was going to help the Ravens, adding a receiver. But I gave it a B. It was one of those where I wasn't really wowed by it, but in no way did I dislike it. He's had a great rookie year. He had a weird rookie season, though. I think actually for the first half of the season, solid. I think people were talking about him like he was better than he actually was. Because my issue was it was kind of like a gadget, like give him like a screen pass or a quick slant, and he was very flashy after the catch. But how was he? Highlights were great. How was he every single snap? And he'd have some games that would pop up that he'd have quite a bit of drops on, a couple of those games. So I was actually thinking he probably wasn't having I thought he was having a really good rookie season, but maybe not as much as other people thought. If you watch every snap, but I thought he's really picked it up the second half of the year. He still had maybe a game where he had some drops. I'm trying to remember what game that was. He had a couple, but somewhat recently, and that was the issue at Boston College, like flashy player, but some drops. But he's really picked it up the second half of the year, getting in the end zone, being more than just an underneath, gadget type guy, getting downfield, getting separation more consistently. So I thought he's kind of gave me what I needed to see. First half of the year, I was like, he's good. I'm not overly thrilled. I need to see this and that, the things I just explained, and he kind of showed me that. So that kind of what bumped up his performance in the second half of the year. So give that an A, and I'll give the pick an A. He's their best receiver, and they need that right now. They definitely need that. So solid pick for the Ravens. And there's Jordan Addison. Originally gave it an A. I thought he should have been taken at the Chargers pick at the latest. So I think a pretty good pick, pairing him with Justin Jefferson. He's played very well for them, for the Vikings. Some big games, big productive games, touchdown machine this year. I'm going to stick with an A. It's pretty close to being an A+, honestly, because for him to be the fourth receiver taken and for him being that explosive, and he had that, the Vikings went through 4 quarterbacks, and he still looks really solid. That looks pretty damn good. There's one thing I want him to do better is catching traffic, but really good season for Addison, and it looks like a really good pick for the Vikings. So we kept that. It ended up being an A across the board. Original pick. There's no reason for those to be anything else. Again, I did consider A+ because it kind of looks like somewhat of a steal as well. And then the same exact thing with Deonte Banks. I liked this pick at the time because I loved his ability in man coverage, and I knew the Giants ran a lot of man. I thought it was a really good fit. It ended up being that. I thought he played very, very well, and it's tough to have, even though he's familiar with man coverage, it's tough to throw in a rookie and have him go man on man with some of these freaky receivers in the NFL. I thought he held his own. I thought he did a very solid job. So no reason to change this one. I thought it was A's across the board for Deonte Banks here, for the Giants pick of Deonte Banks. 25th pick, and it's the same thing somewhat. We're going to keep things across the board. Dalton Kincaid, I gave him a B+ at the time. I love that it was going to create more for the Bills, like more of matchup issues. It's different than Dawson Knox. It's different than the receivers. It's just another guy that's going to open things up for the rest of the team. And it started off a little bit slow, but it ended up showing that to be true. Like he was a weapon, and he ended up going off, and other guys were a little quiet. And then recently, Kincaid might be a little quiet, but other guys are starting to do more. That's what they took Kincaid for. They didn't take him to have crazy production across the board. It's kind of what we said, and I thought he'd be productive, and he is. But this is a piece that opens up more for this offense, and it kind of proved to be that. Is it the sexiest pick in the world? No. But I thought it made sense to kind of keep it a B+ across the board here in every category. For the Bills taking Dalton Kincaid. So, and we'll see what he's got in store for them as a weapon, mismatch weapon going forward. Mazi Smith, I didn't love this pick. I thought I viewed him as more of like a late second round pick. He was a pretty solid run stopper, like kind of plugging gaps at Michigan, but I didn't really see a whole lot. He was really good at that. So that kind of made him like I'd be good. Like, where do you value that? Like a really good version of that? I think more second round, unless he has a lot more. I didn't think he had a lot more. Did he have enough backfield production was my thing. Did he just like blow guards or centers out of the water and just destroy them and get in the backfield and cause a ruckus in the pass and run game? I didn't really see enough of that. So there's nothing that said first round pick. It said good player, not first round pick. So I gave it a C. I thought it was a little bit of a reach for the Cowboys. I thought there was better value there. I do believe they were taking Dalton Kincaid if he was there. I still believe that. And he is less involved than even I thought. I didn't think he was going to be that. Like, I actually thought he would play a lot, even though I didn't think he was going to be like a first round level player, just because they needed somebody in there. But he's actually playing less and less. And they got guys, obviously, Osa Odighizuwa, and Jonathan Hankins playing more than him. Hankins gets hurt. They start playing Mazi Smith a little bit more, not really doing much, and now Neville Gallimore has kind of taken his reps away from him, so Smith's going back down. They're realizing out of the guys that play at that in the interior, he's probably our fourth best one, and we used a first-round pick on him. So I think my evaluation was pretty solid, but even I thought he'd be – the difference is – the lack of production does not surprise me. I thought he would be playing more. I think the Cowboys would kind of force it. And they were kind of struggling to stop the run right now because they knew like maybe that's like the one thing for us to be an elite, consistent elite defense. Sometimes they do look elite. So it's very underwhelming. So I did not love that pick. I definitely do not love it now. So I gave that one a D-. Next, Anton Harrison for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said it was a pretty good fit. I thought it was maybe a little early, but at the same time, I'm like, he's probably an early second round guy. We're at the 27th pick, so I didn't really view it as a reach, But I did say it was a good fit. I think some similar concepts of what Oklahoma did than what Doug Peterson does. So I did like that. Like I think there was for Anton Harrison, that was probably the best like blocking scheme fit, like play style fit. So I did like that, even though I thought it was a little early. So I gave it a B, and it was kind of a need there. So wasn't super sexy, but definitely wasn't bad. I gave it a B. I thought he played at a B. I thought he actually played a little bit better than I thought he would in year one, because even though I said there's some similarities, it was a big transition from that Oklahoma offense to the NFL. So I thought he played fairly solid, and that actually ended up making me bump it up because I think he's ahead of schedule. And the Jags tackles, there's always something going on, like injuries. So I think it was even more of a need. I think he's going to be fairly solid for them. So I gave them a B+ for that one. Myles Murphy is a tricky one to grade because I graded Myles Murphy. I graded the Bengals picking Myles Murphy an A+ at 28 because I love Myles Murphy. He's really good at Clemson, really good tape, and I saw tremendous upside. He has the strength and athleticism. The main thing you look for the pass rusher, get off. He has explosive get off. What he didn't have was a collection of pass rush moves, which I think you can teach. You can't teach get off. You can coach the moves. So he's just going to have time to develop that. I said he was going to be a really, really good pass rusher. I thought it was a tremendous scheme fit, defensive fit with the Bengals too. He's like similar style as Trey Hendrickson, maybe Sam Hubbard, but mainly Trey Hendrickson, but I think a lot more athletic actually. So I love the fit. I love the upside. I had him as a way better player overall on my board than 28. I had him higher than Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness, and I'm going to stand by that. So I gave an A+. It's a tricky one to regrade because he didn't play much this year. It's a tricky one to give a performance grade too because he didn't play much. So the other guys with this amount of snaps, I kind of gave a D to. There was a little more expectations with those guys because you factor in that Myles Murphy is behind Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. And my take on him was his upside. Like, he has everything but the moves. Give him time. Let him learn from other players, coaches to get those moves. He's going to be great. So that kind of plays part. When he has played, I thought he's looked fairly solid. Not great. I thought when he has played, he's looked fairly solid. You also factor in for a raw prospect like this, he is playing more than Joseph Ossai, who's a different type of pass rusher, but playing more snaps than Ossai, more snaps than Cameron Sample. That's pretty good. You look at some of the other players. Tyree Wilson's getting less snaps than Kuntz. More expectations out of him. Van Ness is getting less snaps than another backup in Bresee. I'm going to give. I pretty much have to bump it down, or I'm going to get ripped completely. Probably. I almost don't want to because I think everything's part on schedule at Myles Murphy. I think everything's there. I wish, and I probably thought we would see a little bit more from him. So I wish I did. So we'll bump it down for that. But I still love the fit. I still think this was tremendous value. I think he has a lot of upside. I think he has a great future. So I still think that's a pretty good pick. We're not going to completely base things off a year one, a raw prospect sitting behind two great pass rushers. I'm just not going to do that. Brian Bresee ended up going B's across the board. Original draft day grade, gave him a B. They needed a defensive tackle. Another one of those that wasn't like a super sexy pick, but solid player if he's healthy. Durability was kind of the issue with him. Performance, I'm going to give him a B. I think he had good backfield production, especially on pass plays. He could be a little bit more consistent. You don't hear his name a whole lot, which is odd because I thought he's played fairly well. And I'm going to keep it at a B. I don't really see anything to change it. I think he's going to be a good player for them. He's got to stay healthy long term, which is we're still kind of waiting and seeing for Bresee and the Saints. Nolan Smith, I gave a B+. I was lower on Nolan Smith than most people. I did like the flashiness, the potential, the upside. But I thought he was kind of like a one-trick pony. Is a little harsh because he was very talented at it. But I thought he was a speed rusher off the edge, win with speed and bend. But the issue was his strength. How will he be against NFL tackles? Because when he didn't win off the snap and get off the outs, like have a step on the tackle, even in college, he got beat because the tackle had him in his hands, and the tackle was just too strong for Nolan Smith. So that was kind of my issue with him. And when there was some people that had him around an elite prospect or close, I didn't see that. He's super flashy, probably another one of those guys. Like if you watch the highlights or if you're going off the combine, which those things matter. I'm not one of those guys that say like those things are overrated. Like I think they matter, and it does show his upside still. So I gave it a B+, and that was probably higher than I originally anticipated. But I thought it was a good fit with the Eagles, with their defense, and another Georgia player at his upside. He has the time to sit, maybe gain some strength. Performance grade, I'm going to give it D+. He got in preseason. He got a little banged up. He got in. There's some moments where he's a little banged up, nothing major. He's gotten some snaps. I wish more. He is behind really good players. We're talking about Myles Murphy. Like, he's behind those players. Nolan Smith is as well. I just wasn't thrilled with the limited snaps I saw, and I wish he would get a little bit more. So I gave it a D+. And I'm going to bump that down to a C+. Kind of going back to my evaluation. And again, he got a little banged up here and there like that. And it's one thing if it wasn't a guy that you had no concerns on that. But it kind of went with, he's an undersized guy. Does he have the strength to play with tackles? It's still a big question. And of course the Eagles do it. Again, he has time to figure it out. Sometimes they don't play these guys right away, but some of those same problems might exist. They might prove to be they're there. So it's a little tricky. He does have a lot of upside. Is he an every down player? We still have these questions, so I did have to bump that down one down a little bit. And then Felix Anudike-Uzomah for the Chiefs. Yeah, a guy that I had like a mid-second round grade on, so I did think it was a little early, but it was the last pick of the first round, and I thought it was a good fit. So the fit kind of stopped it from being a C+, C at the time, so I gave it a B-. He played less and less as every game went on. He played less and less and couldn't really figure it out, and so I gave it a D-. I still think it's a fit. It's a guy that can work with. It's a guy that has upside, but I thought there was opportunities, like given who's playing for the Chiefs. Remember, they don't have Frank Clark in there anymore, and they got guys playing well, but there was an opportunity to gain snaps as the year went on, not lose the snaps. So that was pretty tough. So we're going to give that one a D. Again, still has some upside there. So there you have it. A lot of talking in this video. Hopefully everyone understands. Sometimes people don't understand, but we originally graded the pick based off the value of we grade the pick, not the player. So we want to regrade that. And I gave the performance grade just to kind of get an idea on how they played in year one, but that's not everything when grading the pick. Everyone should, if you listen to the video, you should definitely understand. But that will do it for this one. Let me know if you guys have different takes on something. I know there's some fans that think their team needs an A+ for everything they do, so I'm not going to pay attention to that too much. But if you got a difference in opinion, we'd love to hear that in the comments. Always talk with you guys on Twitter. Loads of content here for the NFL, for in-season, the playoffs, the off-season. We got you covered. So join us, like, subscribe to our channel. It's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.